Morning, guys. Especially if you're feeling terrible, because Ritu and Patricia are with us, and we're gonna have our second political wellness live. So just before I introduce them, let me just do all the stuff that I have to do to get the live rolling. First thing I have to do is just bring up the live chat over here on Substack. If you guys can just bear with me for a second, it's coming. It's on the way. It is okay. So live chat on Substack is here. Let me just bring TikTok into the live now as well. That always takes a moment. Okay, so TikTok is here. I think, yeah, TikTok is here. We have YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So our community is getting bigger, which is a good thing. So I hope everybody's doing well. I'll just give everybody a couple seconds to start to populate. TikTok, you haven't seen this before. This is new for you guys. I haven't done this on TikTok before, but now that I've figured out the technology of multi-streaming to TikTok, you guys are now here, and that's cool. So every 2 weeks right now, every other Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, we're doing a political wellness live. And that's because the stress and the overwhelm, I think, from what's happening right now, from what's happening at the macro with the administration in general, with the Trump administration, and from what's happening in the micro with the moment to moment issues that we're dealing with are, we wanted to do something. Patricia, who has been with us in Substack and TikTok for forever, and my wife Ritu, they're mental health professionals, and we've wanted to do something to give everybody tangible tools to be able to navigate the madness that we're living with right now. So just to quickly introduce everyone, and then I think we should just get right into it. As a Patricia, you know her as Patty Ann if you're on Substack and um, if you're on TikTok. But her full name is Patricia. She's a therapist. She's a mental health professional, and she specializes in family counseling.
Marriage
There was
family
a
therapy.
what was that? Sorry, can you repeat it? Was it
Marriage family therapy.
marriage and family therapy? And now she's, becoming a political therapist as well because God knows we need it. And you all know my wife Ritu at this point. Ritu's been a social worker for 30 years now at a major metropolitan hospital. She has been with people, worked in every department in the hospital pretty much, and has been with people in their absolute worst moments and best moments. She's also a influencer, a wellness influencer, and an all-around sort of wellness guru. Like that's really her thing. So I think maybe we'll just kind of get right into it, guys. So when we last met, we it was our first political wellness live, and we came up with some tangible. I mean, there's no we in it. They came up with some tangible tools to utilize to be able to deal with the stress of this situation we're living in. We're going to extrapolate on those tools in a little bit. We're going to actually do some stuff. But we decided that we would wait a little bit we were sort of debating whether we would do that at the beginning of the live or the middle of the live. But we were talking about it. We felt like if we do deep breathing or any of that stuff in the very beginning of the live, as people come on, they might think that this is just a wellness post, and they might want that or not. But we want to so we decided we'll do it in the middle when everybody's kind of settled. So stay tuned for that. So, but to jump right into it, the issue of the moment, right? I think the difficult emotional issue of the moment is obviously the war in Iran, right? People are scared and we're overwhelmed. We don't know what's happening next. We have an administration that's lying to us consistently.
Mhm.
We have a plethora of changing excuses for the war. We're once again seeing people being unalived. You know, that's a part of our lives now. We've lost 6 U.S. service people that we know about. It's 1,400 Iranians are gone. You have a couple handfuls of Israelis that are no longer with us. So we're watching all this trauma in real time.
Mhm.
How do we deal? What do you think? Whoever wants to jump in and start. I know that's a very open-ended question, but you know, what do we do?
Yeah. So I think, excuse me, I'm sorry. You're going to see me having difficulty with my earbuds because they're falling out. So excuse me as I'm fidgeting. So I think one of the things is to recognize that this particular administration is actually flooding the zone. And it was a concept that Steve Bannon came up during the first time Trump became president. And now it's gone into overdrive. And if we just have that knowledge alone, what flooding the zone actually looks like, is there, if you've noticed, the news cycle is moving like rapid fire. It's so fast. And the narrative keeps on changing. Misinformation keeps on happening over and over again. And I think what they're trying to do is Steve Bannon had said, bang them with information over and over and over again. And what's that doing is it's causing us to numb out, it's causing us to burn out, it's making us feel very fearful, anxious, angry. So it's eliciting a lot of emotions. And it's causing us to have like a lot of where we're becoming more reactive than responsive with our emotions. So, from a psychological standpoint, we're taking what can be very logical from a prefrontal cortex and it's moving us back to our limbic system, making us feel very fearful. So, it's a direct tactic that they're using. The more we engage in that tactic, the more we allow their narrative to continue. So if we just pause and recognize, all right, this is a political strategy that they're using, and it's a political strategy that other leaderships in other areas have also used. And they're how do we, if we recognize that alone, then we can take a pause and not react, not allow our emotions to take the lead. So that knowledge alone is, I believe, the first step.
Mhm.
So let me just try to unpack this a little bit. So just we're scared, right? And we're angry, and we're in it, right? We're in war right now. So the first step to not feeling so terrible is recognizing that we're getting hammered with the war itself, as horrific as it is. If you can separate the emotions of the war from
Mhm.
the knowledge that this is a strategy, right? That the war is the next distraction, and that we're being flooded with information, and that authoritarians have used this forever.
Mhm.
Um, are you guys saying just that awareness of that somehow mm, helps? Just that, uh, is that just that's the first step?
Yeah, it's a first step because there's many steps. If anything, we want to manage what's going on and manage our emotions. And so it is, it's a multi-step. And so acknowledging what's going on, acknowledging the anger or the fear that's coming up. So when we talk about
Mm-hmm.
the nervous system, we're going to talk about the responses: fight, flight, freeze, flee. Actually, one of my patients last week said, when I get in that, I get into focus mode. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, that's a really good point. So how are we responding? And in our conversation yesterday, we talked about acknowledging the anger that's coming up or acknowledging the
Mm-hmm.
feelings that are coming up. So if anything, that's like the first step is recognizing we're getting flooded, recognizing what they're trying to do and the tactics. And the next step is acknowledging what's coming up for
Mm-hmm.
us in those moments.
All right, so we do that, right? Let's just use me. I did this last week because I feel like I'm, you know, I have limited control of my this is my political therapy, as I tell you guys all the time, right? So I have limited control of my emotional responses. So I'm really furious, I'm angry, I'm upset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm scared, right? So are they gonna, I don't want to see anybody else pass, or I'm using TikTok language because we have TikTok here today, so I have to use the words on a live and whatnot. So if you guys tell me, okay, the first thing, and I trust you guys, right? Because I know
Mm-hmm.
you guys, right? And I feel good about that, right? So you're like, okay, the first thing you need to do to be able to deal with this is to acknowledge it. All right. So I acknowledge,
Mm-hmm.
I don't bottle up my stuff, right? A lot of, especially men, right? We're taught to bottle up our emotions, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I don't bottle up these fears, these emotions, everything else. Like, not maybe I tell Ritu, my wife, right, at 3 o'clock in the morning that
Mm-hmm.
I'm furious, right? Um, and she says, okay, I hear you, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm still. I think a lot of the people out there, a lot of the folks, who aren't in the wellness or the mental health space, who are watching this would say, okay, but am I just complaining? Am I just? I still feel terrible, right? I said it, and that's the first step, and I get that. But what's next? Because I still I've acknowledged it. The fear isn't gone. Maybe it's a little lightened. Maybe I'm out of fight or flight, but maybe not. So what do I do after that?
So I think the first step is recognizing what they're doing, like what is happening. It's intentional. The flooding the zone is really intentional. It's to get you in fear, to get you anxious. So recognizing that this is happening because in those moments we feel hopeless, helpless, fear, anger, right? And then the next step, to Patricia, to your point, and Mitch, how you were explaining, is the recognizing the emotions that are coming up. Because if we don't recognize and give voice to those emotions, then we allow those emotions to take over. And then we could start finding ways to empower ourselves. But it's hard to empower ourselves if we don't recognize what's happening, right? Because with the news cycles changing so quickly and the narratives changing and the misinformation occurring over and over again, it makes us feel really off kiltered. But to recognize it's really a strategy that's happening, it's a and there uh, I hate to say it, but it's brilliant, right? It's the way to get more control over people. Then we recognize our emotions. We recognize and we give voice to those emotions. And then the third is, all right, how do we take our control back? How do we empower ourselves and go from a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness to empowerment? And I think that's what Patricia and I are here to discuss the next several steps.
Okay. And can I just ask one more thing about that, and then we'll move on? And this may not be in either one of your guys's comfort space, so just
Mhm.
tell me you don't care, right? I won't take it personally.
Mhm.
But as I've said so often to the community, right, is that if I have any job, right, if I have any job, it's to in this fight for democracy in this internet space, It's to remind everybody that we're going to be okay because Trump is an idiot, right? That is my primary responsibility. I deliver the news and I extrapolate and I babble, but I remind everybody that we're not dealing with a stable genius. Ritu, you just used the word brilliant as in reference to the strategy, right? I don't think there's too many folks on this
Mm-hmm.
call right now that would refer to. I think even if we have any folks from the MAGA
Mm-hmm.
community on TikTok, and I haven't looked yet. We'll see. We'll get to that when we get to the Q&A parts. I don't even think they at this point would refer to Donald Trump as brilliant, as this a genius strategy. So to the extent that you guys are comfortable addressing this, I don't know if there's a sort of mental health or a psychological twist to addressing this from that perspective and not the political perspective. But I don't think he's the one that's capable of. Oh, I just he's capable of coming up with this
Mm-hmm.
brilliant flood the zone strategy, right? You say it was Steve Bannon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. I know that you're right about that. Um, but but is it really brilliant? I guess is my question. Like, isn't it like, I don't know, couldn't any of us come up with this? And we just have too much decency to, it's just flooding you with information. Like, what's coming next? I mean, he's already halfway
Mm-hmm.
bored with this, right? He's talking about invading Cuba. So, I mean, is it, if you want to comment on it, or I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. So, look, I'm not saying morally or that he has integrity. I'm not, so I don't want to, let me address what I mean by brilliance. He's using a strategy that is actually not only impacting the United States of America, it's not only impacting we the people, it's actually impacting globally the way other countries are responding to us. So I'm not saying that he's brilliant, but I'm saying what he's doing, that chaos that he's creating, and how we're getting caught up in the chaos is he's then the strategy that he's using, unfortunately, in some ways is working because it's very fear based. And the key is how, again, do we take our control back? So what he's doing is not, he's he's actually getting us back into fight and flight mode where our cortisol levels, where we're feeling stressed on a daily basis. So this way he can move from the Epstein files that are focusing on him or the people around him to now the war. And now, like you said, to Cuba. So as the narrative changes over and over again, it's more distractions. And this flooding the zone concept is keeping us hyper vigilant, keeping us
Mhm.
in stress mode constantly. So it's a strategy that is, I mean, no president has gone to this point where the other presidents had more integrity, right? Had a more moral compass. But he's actually trying to control the narrative. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not, but I'm saying it's people are hyper vigilant, and that
Yeah,
is what
that makes.
unfortunately is working.
So,
And
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead.
So, all right. So we've got this. So we understand that the way to feel better, or the way to be better,
Mhm.
or the way to deal, right? The first step is, as we've talked about already, is accepting your feelings, expressing them, recognizing that you have them, understand the strategy. You know, I'm sure we can. I'm sure we I can already see in the live on TikTok. There's already some debate about how genius it is. Um,
Mhm.
how do we get off the? What's the next step? How do we? They're flooding the zone, right? It feels like they have all the power, right?
Mhm.
We've taken our power back a little bit by admitting that we feel terrible, by recognizing their strategy. Patricia, how do we what do we do? Like, what do we do now? Like, how do we fight? I don't know if fight's the right word. How do we push back? How do we get away? What do we do?
Unfortunately, we'll never actually get away, but what can you do to take care of yourself? So a little bit like
Mhm.
we talked about last week is the self-care. Going from the fight or flight to the parasympathetic, where you can kind of at least be at a normal baseline. But what are some exercises in your day to day that you could do? So self care, and maybe that means like having some meditation in the morning or reading, limiting your news intake,
Mhm.
making sure you wake up in the morning and the first thing you don't do is check your phone for the news. Find something to do in the morning, whether also be going to a gym class, exercising. We talked about going for the walk last week when you feel anger come up. Um, and then also what are some of the boundaries that taking care of yourself has to come into that too, because boundaries might be limiting your news intake, not going to bed reading the news, reading, doing something else at the end of the day. Um, so it's yeah, all these different ways that we need to be taking care of ourselves so that we can stay somewhat empowered, if not
Mhm.
constant, and taking care of ourselves so that we can also once again take care of the others that might need it or helping others.
Can we limiting your news intake? I think that's a big one, right?
Mm.
Um, and I realize I want people to watch me, right? I want to build my community, right? But I've often said like, you know, check out, right? Because it's so much, right?
Mhm.
And the news is, like whether Trump's an evil genius or not, or it's Steve Bannon, and I think Pingu had mentioned in the chat, it's really was the goal of Project 2025 to flood the
Mhm.
zone. The the news was designed long before Trump came around to be
Mhm.
entertainment, right? I'm talking about legacy media, cable news, right? And broadcast news, even before the internet became a thing, right? The news was designed intentionally to be entertainment. If you
Mhm.
watch a newscast, even let's take Trump out of the picture and say it's a hurricane, right? What do you see on your whatever your favorite news channel is? You see dun dun dun, you hear the
Mhm.
movie music in the background. You see I'm sure everybody can picture this while I'm saying it because it's so embedded into our consciousness. You see the red and black, colors. We all know the red and black colors are the hurricane colors. Um, and Ritu, you and I were talking about this earlier, like we keep when it's bad, right? When it's really bad, whatever it is, we keep going back and we watch it.
Mhm.
My wife and I used to, before Trump, we used to sometimes watch the news like all day when we could, looking for something. But why?
Mm.
What is it psychologically that's going on that pulls us in, and we can't disengage from it? And why do we have to?
I think it's a way to empower ourselves in a situation that feels a little hopeless and helpless. I remember, Mitch, you and I, on January 6th, when that occurred,
Mhm.
um, it was like one MSNBC show after another. And it's, I think, a way to somehow gain control and in a situation that feels so out of control and looking for answers that aren't there. I think the other part is it becomes, and this may not sound very, um, this may sound very controversial, but I think it's almost addicting. Like, have you guys noticed when you watch the news, you can't get enough, right? And I think our bodies kind of get used to that level of cortisol racing through it. So if you put on one new show after another, after another, after another, it's almost like we get so used to that feeling or whatever feelings that your body's used to, that adrenaline, that's rushing through us, or the feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. And if we shut it down, it feels almost uncomfortable. So I think two things are happening. One is trying to find control over a situation that feels so uncontrollable is one. And the second thing is our bodies have gotten you, our mind, our bodies, our emotions have gotten used to that. So I think those two things are occurring.
So
We're
it's an
just chasing
addiction.
that.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes,
I was just
it's
gonna
an
say it's
addiction.
like we're chasing that feeling like you would if
Yes,
as an addict.
Wow.
exactly.
That's that's like, that's a lot, right, to take in. Like, I often think, that we're all addicted to something, right? I often
Hmm.
think that, like, some of them are more socially acceptable, right? And some addictions are also more destructive than others in terms of just, you know, getting through life, right? But, you know, so this is, I just want to dig into this a little bit because this is kind of a mind blow for me. Um, when we talk about addiction, right? And can you guys explain like what happens? And I'm putting you on the spot because we didn't prep for this. So, so,
Hmm.
so what happens in when somebody is addicted to a substance, right? Or say gambling, right? Or a food addiction, right? These are things that are we consider them more physical, right? But something happens in the brain, right? When the process that leads to addiction and when someone becomes an addict, right? Can you tell us what happens physiologically? What goes on with the neurotransmitters and all that stuff? And then can you tie that to, because I think it's in addition to that very useful, I mean, it's all been incredibly useful, but that very useful tool that you gave us, which is recognize set of tools, and I'm trying to narrow them down while we're having this conversation. One was recognizing, experiencing your emotion, honoring them, feeling them, letting them out. The second one was recognize that we're being manipulated in essence, and that knowledge of that gives you power.
Hmm.
I feel like this is a third one, and this is third one could be recognizing and admitting, honoring the fact that this is a form of addiction, and that's one of the tools that allows this to work, to allows us to lose control of our emotions, hence losing control of what
Hmm.
actions we take and how we respond. So can you dive into the physiology of the addictive process and connect it to the news cycle and the bad news?
Hmm. Patricia, do
Or
you want me to start and then you
Yeah, because
can?
I do not have a lot of experience with addiction, so
Yeah. And and in true transparency, I don't have a lot either, but let me just share my limited knowledge in it. So the way, and mind you, if someone out there has an issue, um, and if what I'm about to say doesn't resonate, let us know. Let's turn this into a dialogue versus a monologue.
yeah, and I
So
think that's a good. Right after you say this, there's a lot of comments, and we'll toss them out there too.
yeah.
I would love it if you guys could address some of that stuff.
Yeah. So I think in terms of an addiction, let's first take the stigma off, right? It's the disease process of it versus saying that someone's an alcoholic or drug addict. It's they have a disease, like someone would have cardiac disease, cancer, right? We don't shame them. But in terms of, we don't think addiction as watching the news cycle, but the same response that's occurring within our mind and our body. And I think, and in my humble opinion, I think it's threefold. I think it's a mind, body, and spirit. And people are going to be like, what are you talking about? Right. So I think first, what occurs is it occurs in our mind. There is our minds basically hijack us, and we start feeling the craving, whatever that craving is, let it be drugs, let it be alcohol, let it be watching the news cycle, let it be an eating issue, like wanting to eat to cope with whatever's going on with our lives. And voice, that voice in the back of our minds gets actually louder and louder and louder. And it doesn't feel better until that product, whatever that product outside of us is, gets consumed. And then that physical craving, like so in AA, they say one is too many and 100's not enough. But before they consume that one alcoholic beverage, it's the voice precipitates it, that internal struggle that's going on in order to cope with life, that starts first. So, in terms of the news, it's, whatever voice that we're hearing, all right, we got to find some control. We got to find some control. We got to, got to know what's going on. If I don't know what's going on, then I appear stupid, then I appear dumb, then I'm not in the know. It's that lack of control within us, and then the physical craving kicks in. But the physical craving doesn't kick in until we start consuming that product, and then the body responds accordingly. But if we could tackle it through a mind, body, spirit connection, taking care of ourselves emotionally, taking care of ourselves physically, taking care of ourselves spiritually, however you define the spirit, I believe that that can help you in this way.
And okay, and I just want to dive in a little bit more to, because I want people to understand that it's not their fault. That that you
Mhm.
can do something about it, but it's not your fault. Just like, you know what? Yes, you have to take personal responsibility, right? But if somebody is addicted to alcohol, just like any of us might be addicted to the news cycle, there's a
Yes, it's
process
a
that goes on in the brain. Neurotransmitters are firing when you take that drink, or when you see that news and you're looking for the next good news, you get good feelings, right? That's the serotonin,
the
that's what you get
dopamine.
addicted to, the dopamine. It's not your fault that your body does that, right? And it happens so quickly, right? And just like people who make food, like bad processed food, have science that they use and
Mhm.
have figured out, right? With that decades of science, how to addict us to shitty food, right? They understand what goes on in the brain. Um, the legacy news outlets over decades have figured out how to addict us
Mhm.
to that same process happens, right? And now, whether Trump or Bannon or the Project 2025 creeps or whoever figured out how to use this autocratic playbook, it's that the autocrats figured this out centuries ago,
Way
right?
before.
The human condition is the same. Trump
Mhm.
is either the useful idiot who's doing it for the people who are managing him around him, or maybe he has some natural instinctive quality that allows him to do this. I don't know. But so let me just give you one of the comments. So Claude had mentioned in here, because this is kind of, I think this goes part and parcel of what we're talking about. Claude says, and I think it was when we were talking about addiction in general, says disagree. We are chasing
Mhm.
hope with each news broadcast. And the reason that shook me when I saw that when we were talking is that's what I do. Claude, that's exactly
Mhm.
what I do. I watch the new. If I binge watch legacy media or even Blue Sky or even I keep watching because
Yes.
I'm hoping that there's something next that's going to make me feel better, right?
Yeah.
Is that
No, I totally agree with that because there are times where, say the Supreme Court, brings down us good news, right? Or they vote against Trump. To us, we're just like, yes, there's hope. So I totally agree with that. In It can go both ways. We are one kind of addicted to the news or what's next, and kind of that built in that
Mhm.
they're trying to do to us. But also, yeah, we are looking for is is it done yet? Is it gone yet? Like what is the hope that's going to come out? at some point.
Mhm.
Yeah, and since we can't, here the thing is like we can't control that, right? We can't
Mhm.
control the news, right?
Hmm.
So we just keep going back. And Fox News
Yeah.
or MS Now or CNN, they just keep doing the same broadcast over and over again. Mitch at Xenocracy keeps getting you riled up and telling you the same shit over and over again, right? I might try to make you laugh and use a lot of bad words, but I'm playing the same game in a different way.
Mhm.
Hopefully, hopefully in a more humanitarian way. Depends what.
Yeah.
But what since we can't control that, what's a healthy response? What's number four in this laundry list of things? And Unsweetened Dante, I want to get to your comment in a minute. And also, I haven't forgotten about you guys over there on TikTok. Um, what's what do you what's the response to, well, we can't control it. We already talked about you can stop watching the news a little bit. Um, is that what you do? Or
Yeah. I think the hope, and Claude, I love what you said, and I agree with Patricia. We are chasing and we are hoping for the hope, right? But I invite you to extrapolate it a little bit bigger as we're chasing the hope and see how you feel after you watch the news. Like, really, there's something called metacognition, and that is thinking about our thinking.
Hmm.
So the next time you're watching the news and we're chasing the hope, right? We're really wanting it to be different. And like Patricia, you had said, sometimes we do get that win, right? But just notice after watching it, do you feel different? Or are you again left feeling hopeless and helpless? Just food for thought. And I think um, the next step would be is where can we set a boundary around ourselves if we could just keep it very simple, and that is just if we could take it to yes, watch the news, be in the know, but where can we set the boundary? Patricia, you said it so beautifully earlier when we started is, maybe choosing not to do it first thing in the morning, maybe choosing not to watch the news right before you go to bed. Because when we wake up the first thing in the morning, and I'm telling this to Mitch constantly, right? Mitch, I'm
She
always
is,
telling him,
and I'm such an offender because I literally woke up with a bedhead post that I did this morning, but telling everybody I don't want my wife to see my socials because I just posted everywhere 3 hours ago. I just woke up, and by the way, gas is going to be $4 a gallon. So I
yeah.
digress.
No, no, but it's so true. But if we wake up first thing in the morning and we turn on the news cycle just for today, or even notice it for tomorrow, just see how do you feel after you've scrolled through your social media. How do you feel after you turned on the news and it's not what you want to hear? Just kind of tap into that mind body connection. And at the same front, if you're listening to the news before you go to bed, how are you able to go to bed, or are you ruminating on what was just told to you?
Let me
And
ask.
you're
Oh,
gonna,
let me
no,
ask
no,
you a
please.
question because there's a great comment. I mean, there's a ton of great comments, but there's a great comment that I think Cool Doodle, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, brought up in terms of this. Doodle says, for people who are already homeless,
Mm,
why would people not be fearful when you're already homeless? And I want to extrapolate on that a little bit because I don't want to mean to put words in your mouth, but Cool Doodle, the way I interpret that message is what I think a lot of people are thinking that is like, well, if I don't suffer, if I don't
mm,
worry about the person who is homeless right now by engaging, if I, that first of all, that person doesn't get a break, right?
Hmm.
There's no, we have the privilege of a break for now, right? Let's say you're a
Hmm.
migrant, right? You don't have a break, right? You're 24/7. If you're here illegally right now and you have kids, and you're in a God forbid situation, which they all are, where they could be deported at any second, right? It's like you don't get a break, right? You're 24/7, you're in fight or flight, right? Because you're always scared ICE is going to come to your door and knock the door down and separate you from your children forever. And I think what iCadoodle is saying is like, how do I rest easy? How do I take a break when a homeless person for 24/7, they're dealing with it? I'm not.
Yeah.
And the best I can do is at least suffer by watching the news, right? I mean, I know it doesn't kind of make sense, but it sort of does because I do that, right? I feel that way. Or you have a migrant family that's separated and is sitting in a U.S. detention center in squalor. They don't have that break, right?
Yeah.
So, am I a patriot? Am I a decent person if I check out because I'm not fighting for them right now, and I'm lucky enough that I'm okay. Like I'm a white middle-aged guy, right? For now, I'm pretty safe, right? I feel that way a lot too, and I think that what's Ikedoodle saying, like how do you deal with that guilt, right? Of like
Hmm.
I have the privilege. I care about the people who don't. I need to fight Trump because I can be in his face and they can't. I can't check out. I can't check out. How do you guys like, how do we deal with that kind of thinking? And it's common, I think.
Yeah. I think that's a great question. And I think it's something that ruminates over a lot of people's minds. But it goes back to the whole analogy of taking a flight. How many people on this live have been on an airport, right? The flight attendant says, which is seems so counterintuitive, place the oxygen mask first on ourselves before we place it on our loved ones. And as a mom, my first thought is I need to place it on my son. But if I don't place it on myself first, I can't be there to help Ike, like you're saying, the homeless person on the street. I can't be there to help the immigrants because I am feeding from an empty well. And if I'm coming from an empty well, I'm irritable, I'm anxious, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. I'm then reacting to life versus responding. So it comes back to that self care. And you could still be in the know. This wellness is not saying do not tap into the news. It's saying don't allow the narrative of them flooding the zone take over and hijack your own emotional state. So you have the ability to do what you need to do first to take care of yourself, to take care of your family, then to take care of and to be of service, and take action steps. Um, for instance, contacting your legislation, participating in a march, writing a letter, emailing the House of Representatives, whatever it is. But it has to be with self care because if we continue, go ahead, love, you stated.
Well, I was just going to say, I want to get Patricia's take on this, because I think this guilt. I think you guys getting both your perspectives on this on the guilt is significant. Do you see it the same way, Patricia?
Yes, and also, um, it's just we all have the fear, and it's all going to look different, and it's all going to be um, based on different aspects of who we are in our life. And so, kind of taking that comment, we don't necessarily have that experience of the immigrants' fears, but kind of taking what Ritu's saying, take care of ourselves so that we can go take care of,
Mhm.
if it's donating to a food drive or volunteering at a food drive
Mhm.
or knowing those people that are too scared to leave their homes, um, putting a message under their door saying, hey, I'm here, leave me a list, I'll go get some food for you. Like we
Mhm.
can't necessarily take away their fear or protect them, but we can take care of them as a person and help give them some hope
Mhm.
that there's a community out there that does care and we're
So it
here.
sounds like you both are saying that, um, you still have to take care of yourself because you really don't have the bandwidth to help the people who don't have the privilege that we have right now. And then taking action in whatever that step is when you have the breath is the
Mhm.
antidote to the guilt. Is
Mhm.
that is that fair? Is that what you guys are both saying? Is that kind of a fair summary?
Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly. And getting back to the metacognition, even just asking ourselves, how is that guilt serving us? Because the guilt, and look, I've had it, I've had guilt, being in that sandwich generation of having a young little boy and working full time and having parents that are elderly, feeling pulled in so many directions. So, not that that's political, but guilt is guilt, right? I can either wallow and stay stuck in the guilt that prevents me from taking the right action. So for me, I have to question myself, is this guilt serving me? Because what the guilt can do is sometimes make us take action that we don't want to take, or make us take action that could be depleting,
Mhm.
or um, keep us stuck. So again, it goes back to what Patricia said earlier, is recognizing our emotions that they're there. Um, and that would be the first step, but also not remaining stuck in that emotion, like empowering ourselves.
So I think what I mean, we had a second part of this live, but I don't think we're going to get to it today, which was the Epstein cover-up stuff and the emotions attached to that. Maybe we'll table that till next time because this has gone longer than in a good way than I thought this particular one issue would go. And I think it's like therapy. It's like an ongoing thing. Like I don't think we're going to fix everybody's fear and stress and uncertainty about the war. I think maybe a good thing to do. I mean, Unsweetened Auntie has a comment here I want to read, and I'd love you guys to address. And then let's follow up on the tools from last week. And anybody who wants to stick around for those, these are actual tangible
Mhm.
things you can do right now that will do that Ritu and Patricia can that we start out that will help. That'll just help you feel more in control and better. But let me get to Auntie's comment. Part of the uncontrolled feeling comes from knowing that our government is less than trustworthy and transparent.
Mm.
Watching live news events provides a sense of having firsthand knowledge and feels real and assuring that we know what's really happening. So I think Auntie's comment is
Mm.
that, watching these live news events is confirmation because we know we're being lied to by the Trump administration. And, news is supposed to speak truth to power, and that's the only way to be
Mhm.
that's the only way to know what's really going on. Um, you know, so that's a good thing. I think she's giving us a reason to watch the news. What do you guys think?
It's it's difficult because it's important for us to stay up to date with what's going on and being in the news, but we're also saying don't let it consume you.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sums it up perfectly. So you got it. So it can be overwhelming, but it's necessary. And that's kind of like, sugar, right? I have to consume a certain amount of salt and
Mhm.
sugar to live. But
Mhm.
if I, have too much of it, it causes problems. So I think the physiological and the psychological kind of like, might help people sort of wrap their brains around this. So So guys, what do you think, what can we do? Like, what are these practical tools that we started last time with breathing?
Mhm.
If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if we can follow up on some of those in the moment tools to kind of talk yourself off the ledge.
Mhm. So we had shared already about balancing, setting a boundary of our own selves, maybe not first thing in the morning, not watching the news before you go to bed, would be the first, right? How can you change up the scenery? So rather than being fixated in front of the news and or watching it on your TV, can you get outside, get some fresh air, ground yourself by being outside and get really present, because the news cycle will either get you in fear where you're extrapolating ahead, or where you're regretting what you may have done in the past, or maybe how you may have voted or may not have voted. So if you get outside, what you're doing is you're grounding yourself, you're getting in the present moment. So that would
Unless,
be
of course, you
another
have your phone with you
strategy.
and you're watching
But
like
yes,
you're watching CNN while you're like, hugging a
yeah,
tree. What about
exactly.
the actual breathing exercises, the stuff to get you out of the moment? Maybe we could do it, to get you out of the moment of freaking out, right? We just you just watch Mitch's post that reminded you that we're hitting $100 a barrel on oil. We're looking at $200 a barrel if this war goes on for another 3 weeks. Gas is $4 a gallon. You can't afford your medicine right now. The village idiot Donald Trump just announced that he's planning to go to Cuba next week or some nonsense. You're like hyperventilating. So what are those physical? What do you do in that moment to feel to get your get out of fight or flight?
So
Bring down that nervous system. Go ahead.
yeah. No, go ahead, Patricia.
Oh, I was just making the comment.
Oh, okay. So what we could do is remember that our breath is portable. And whenever we're in, like you said, Mitch, in hyperventilation, what happens? Our breathing becomes like, right? The anxiety kicks in and our breathing is in our chest. So if we just do simple diaphragmatic breathing, which is stomach breathing, it actually helps change that fight and flight response. It's something that's so simple that we could do anywhere in our lives. That we could take it before we go on a flight. We could take it when we go outside. We could take it when we're watching even the news.
Well, let's do it.
So,
Let's just do
okay,
it so people
okay,
can know what it is because I'm getting
all
stressed.
right, okay.
I need
So,
it.
so just actually note from a scale of 1 to 10 how you're feeling right now. Some people who are watching agreed, some people may have disagreed. This could be new information or not new information. So just know how you're feeling at this moment. And let's just do a simple breath work. Okay.
So I'm like at a 5, by the way. Just so I'll be the guinea pig, right? I mean,
Okay.
because I'm thinking, you know what? It got me going when you brought up Steve Bannon. That just got my heart racing in the beginning of this. Thank you for that. In the beginning of this live, he's just. Somebody once called him on Blue Sky a human bag of bed bugs, which was like, and I know this is not appropriate for mental wellness and everything, but like he really is that guy, and so I'm mad about him. So I'm at a 5. So that's where I am. Anybody else, if you want to actually do this in real time and be public about it and see if it works, toss your number in the chat. If not, don't worry about it. Just keep it in your brain. But yes, I'm at a legit 5, maybe 5.5, which is better than my usual number.
Okay. So Mitch, you're at a 5. Okay. So let's take a moment if we can all try this together, if it speaks to you, and if it doesn't, it's all good. No worries, okay? So we're gonna, if you're comfortable with it, close your eyes. If you're not, again, do you, okay? So we're just gonna, for the people that want to close their eyes, please do. Others, you could slightly just keep the eyes a little bit down, just look down. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna, before I share it with you, we're just gonna take a deep breath in through our nose. And we're gonna do that for a count of 3. You're gonna hold in your belly for a count of 4. You can place one hand on your chest, one hand on your abdomen, just to show that you want to breathe into your abdomen. And if you breathe into your chest, don't stress. It's all good. So you're going to take a deep breath in. You're going to, for a count of 3, you're going to hold for a count of 4, and you're going to exhale nice and slow. As if, think about blowing out candles. Think about blowing out your candles or your child's candles or someone that you love for a count of 5. Okay.
Oh,
And
wait,
we're
wait,
just
let me
going to
do
do
something.
this.
You know what? Actually, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but let me just get people stressed out. Hang on. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to help really, everybody gets to really test this out.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry about that.
They got my heart rate going.
Yeah, sorry. Now let's, I just thought that would help. Yeah, all right, now let's do it. Didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
I'm feeling stressed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. So if you could put one hand on your heart and one hand on your abdomen. And again, it doesn't have, we're not looking for perfection, just looking for progress. So let's take a deep breath in through our nose for a count of 3. You're going to hold for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for a count of 5. Again, deep breath in through your nose, hold in your abdomen. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale nice and slow through your mouth. We're going to do this 4 more times. Deep breath in, hold, and exhale nice and slow. Beautiful. 3 more. Deep breath in, hold, and exhale nice and slow. And 2 more times. Deep breath in, hold, and exhale. And last time. Deep breath in, hold, and exhale nice and slow. Beautiful.
Yeah,
And
that
when you're
works.
ready,
Oh, sorry. Did I
that's
speak too
okay. No,
fast?
no.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a
So,
good. So Louis Baby was a 9. Abigail's an 8. Was an 8. Are you guys any different now? Unless you're an 8 now. After if you're an 8 now or a 9 after that, then we've got to rethink this whole live thing. But you know, so Louis now a 3. Jules is a 6. So I'm a good solid 3 now too. After that. Just before oh my God, I know we're going so late. Thank you guys for sticking around. I just wanted to, Patricia, I don't remember which one of you guys did this last time. I think you had told us about the 5 things. I would love to throw that out to people to give them that tool as well. I'd love them to take 2 practical tools with them before we wrap. Can you share that technique? Oh,
Nope, it was me. Sorry, I had muted
Oh,
it. Okay, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 tools. 5 things you can see. So look around you. Notice 5 things you can see. So this is based on the senses. So number 4 is 4 things you can hear. Then 3 is 3 things you can touch. 2 things is 2 things you can smell. And 1 is 1 thing you can taste. And so
and
kind of
that
using that as a grounding tool.
that's sort of, it distracts you, right? It refocuses you from
Mhm,
anything else that's going on in your mind. Because although we
mhm,
can multitask, we don't, right? When we're doing that, we dial in and we do that stuff. Um, Abigail, no, no, I went up to an 8 when I heard Trump's voice. That was intentional. Normally I'm not about rage bait, clickbait and rage. Oh, my thing fell out here, but that was to get you guys fired up. It's pretty funny. All right, guys, I think it's a good moment to wrap the live because we've been going for about an hour now. I hope this helped everybody. We're going to do this every 2 weeks. Um, and we'll be on all socials for sure. If you would like to, please consider following Ritu at because she does a lot of content at what your Ritu Chib Ivan, right? On socials.
Yes.
Ritu Chib, RITU CHIBEIVEN. Say that 10 times fast. Um, for she's putting out a lot of content. Patricia, I don't know. Are you doing content? Do you want to be followed, or do you want to just like do this and that's enough?
Uh, no, absolutely, you can follow me, but I don't really do content.
Patricia's Miss Patty Ann, right?
Yes, and
Uh,
pretty much
uh,
everything.
on everything. So, follow
Mhm.
Patricia too. Thank you guys so much for doing this. It really matters, and it's really really needed. So thank you to Ritu, thank you to Patricia for sharing your expertise and your calming, soothing voices and spirits with us because I think it makes a difference. Um, we will do this again in 2 weeks. Saturday in 2 Saturdays at 11 a.m. And along the lines of what we're talking about, I end every live with 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. And that's because Ritu and Patty Ann have taught me that you chunk it. You chunk it to get through it. Take what you can. The rest of us are standing. There's those of us to God forbid to quote Pete Hegseth, except not in a ridiculous frat boy want to blow the world up kind of way. We'll hold the line while you take a break.
Mhm.
And it's going to be okay. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Ritu and Patty Ann, and we'll see you guys on we'll see you guys. I'm sorry, I said it's Sunday, it's not Saturday. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 11:15 for our regular lives. And of course, look for all the political stuff on the socials after you've done your deep breathing and checked out for a while. Take care, everybody, and be well. I'll see y'all soon.
Bye.
See you. Take care.
Bye-bye.